The Supreme Court has ruled that the right to redistrict election maps ultimately remains under the discretion of state lawmakers. That's scary. This practice, known as gerrymandering, has long come under the fire for its tendency to be heavily partisan influence, often disenfranchising voters in their own district. Legal journalist Molly Barrows is here to talk about this. We've seen it in Florida, haven't we?
Oh my gosh!
I think I made this map. It's almost it's like an upside down hummingbird. You know, you have districts that look like that.
That's exactly right. They talked about the funny names they give them.
So why did they give it a pass? Why did they?
For the same reason that they have consistently. You know, the U.S. Supreme Court has yet to find that a redistrict map is quote unquote unconstitutional, based on essentially that they have no clear standard by which to determine if excessive gerrymandering has occurred. So while they recognize gerrymandering has occurred, when it comes to like murder, for example, and I know this is a strange example, but you know, you have your degrees, first degree, second degree, intentional manslaughter. I mean, I think basically what they're saying is, yeah, we know gerrymandering happened. We're just not sure we can officially measure how bad it was and what makes it worse than this.
Right, you got first degree politics, second degree politics, third degree manslaughter politics.
Right.
And so we're okay with that. Look, this is a cop-out by the Supreme Court. I mean, to say, well, you know, kind of looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, but I don't think it's a duck because we can't prove it's a duck. It is so lame.
It's unbelievable.
What's the margin that this came out?
5-4. And it was interesting because I read part of the decision. At least one of the justices was saying over and over again, it is with a heavy heart that I dissent to this decision, because basically I feel like it's clear that gerrymandering has occurred. So it comes from these two states, North Carolina and Maryland, and they both essentially made the same claims, except they said North Carolina had been redistricted in favor of Republicans and Maryland had been redistricted in favor of Democrats. And so they both were, the lower courts had ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, and it went to the Supreme Court, and they said the same thing. Oh boy, sure looks like y'all been gerrymandered, but we sure can't do much about it. So what a shame.
Yeah, I mean, you have the evidence there.
Right.
You know, it's not like, the evidence is clear that it's politics.
Absolutely.
So the Supreme Court then says, well, we can't subjectively read politics into it.
You states are going to take care of that yourselves.
Right, okay, they've got history. They know what the history is. They've got the repetitive nature of how odd the gerrymandering is. That's evidence.
Right.
Certainly, you have plenty of circumstantial evidence to decide. The third part of it is that the lawmakers themselves will not, we can't get them under control. That's what's missed in this, you see. In this whole analysis, the Supreme Court goes to this checklist, oh, well, we can't prove this, we can't. It's like circumstantial evidence, and they ignore the fact, the thing they don't take into consideration is it's pretty evident that in a Republican state, you're going to have Republican gerrymandering.
Of course.
In a Democratic state, you're going to have Democratic. So what's your take?
Well, basically, the Supreme Court, again, punted to the states and said the lower courts are going to have to deal with this on a state level. So that does give states, the Democratic Party, some power. And for instance, if they want to go into a state like Pennsylvania, which recently had some redistricting, which helped out Democrats. So they can say, hey, even though we're not going to get any help from the Supreme Court, in fact, Michigan just ruled that a redistrict map there in April was gerrymandered, but it was a federal court that made that decision, and because of the Supreme Court's rule, they had ordered that map to be redrawn, and now it doesn't have to be redrawn. So that happened in Michigan, but at the state level, they can still do more things like set up commissions that help with the process of oversight, and they want them to be nonpartisan, and Republicans, as you might imagine, are not really on board with that. So they're preparing to fight any organized Democratic effort on a state level.
I can make a prediction right now, and there's people, there are people that do what I'm about to say. There are people that can sit down and look at the gerrymandered map, specifically run algorithms on the gerrymandered map, and tell you who's going to be the next president.
Yeah, they even talked about that in this decision.
They can tell you who's going to be the next senator.
Right.
There's no guesswork. So voters basically feel disenfranchised.
And they're right.
Because I got to tell you, if you look at this map, Trump's going to win again.
Absolutely.
And
that's
people,
the goal, isn't it?
The people who do these algorithms will tell you, you know, it's not just the Democrats have put together clown-like quality candidates. It is that I don't care if you had the perfect candidate. The gerrymandering map makes it so difficult to win. And these algorithms work on just being able to go, taking the detailed time and analyze each gerrymandered kind of area and tell you what's going to happen in the election.
Yes, and then what's interesting about this decision, too, is they even took some of that math and they went back and said, if you hadn't done what you had done, then the results would have been X, Y, and Z. It would have been different. You wouldn't have had so many more Republican legislators. You would have had X number more Democratic legislators. So you're exactly right. Everyone's perfectly aware of exactly what's going on.
The Supreme Court knows this.
Yes.
Is what I'm trying to tell you. I'm sure that part of the brief, I didn't read the briefs, I didn't hear the oral arguments on this, but I'm sure in there they would say, they could tell the panel, judges, we can tell you who's going to win by algorithms because of the gerrymandering. And what it does is it takes away the interest of the voter to say, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to go fight through this. I'm going to go vote. I'm going to try to make a difference, because the truth is they really don't put much emphasis on that.
Well, it's not democracy. That's the bottom line. It's a blow to democracy.
Yeah.
If our representatives are supposed to be elected by the people and represent the people's voice, they have effectively taken away that voice. 31 states draw their own districting lines, 31. So for the courts to put that back, that's great, but it's basically putting the fox back in charge of the hen house and saying, do better, boys. Yeah, we sure hope your grassroots organizations can help out.
Brilliant state legislators. Molly, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Pat.